The desert was silent that night. Only the wind moved, whispering across the cold sand. Far away, under a broken moon, a lonely man named Eli Ward walked with a flashlight in his hand. He was a scavenger, a man who searched for old metal and forgotten things. But tonight was different. A strange blue light had fallen from the sky just an hour ago. The crash was loud and the ground had shaken. Everyone in town was too afraid to go near it, but Eli wasn't. He needed money, and anything that fell from the stars could be worth a fortune. He followed the glowing trail until he reached a wide crater. Inside it lay a huge silver ship half buried in the sand. The metal was smooth like glass and symbols burned faintly along its surface. Eli had seen planes crash before, but this wasn't any plane. The air smelled of smoke and something sharp, like burnt electricity. He hesitated, his flashlight trembling in his hand. Then he climbed down into the crater. The ship's side was torn open, revealing dark tunnels and flickering blue lights inside. As Eli stepped closer, his boots crunched over glass and strange black liquid. Every sound echoed, bouncing off the walls of the alien wreck. Inside it was quiet. Too quiet. Then from somewhere deep in the ship he heard it. A whisper. Dick. Eli froze. His light shook. For a second he thought it was the wind, but the voice came again. Soft, trembling, like a child. "Daddy, please." His heart pounded. There was no one else out here, not for miles. He called out, his voice rough. "Hello, is someone there?" No answer. Only the faint hum of alien machinery and that soft, sad sound. Eli followed the voice down a long hallway covered in glowing blue veins. The walls pulsed slowly like they were alive. He passed broken panels, shattered glass, and what looked like black feathers made of metal. Everything felt wrong, like the ship was watching him. At the end of the hallway he found it, a small sack half buried under fallen debris. It was made of some strange living fabric, glowing faintly with green light. The whisper came again, now clearly from inside it. "Daddy." Eli's hands shook as he reached for it. The sack was warm, too warm, and when he lifted it, it moved. Something inside was alive. He hesitated, fear clawing at his chest. Maybe it was an alien trap. Maybe something would burst out and kill him. But then he heard it again, weaker this time. "Please." That tiny voice broke through his fear. He tore open the sack. Inside was a baby. It wasn't fully human. The skin was pale with a faint silver glow, and its eyes, when they opened, were bright like stars. Thin blue lines ran under its skin, glowing softly like wires. It looked fragile, like it wouldn't live for long. Eli stared, lost between fear and wonder. "What are you?" he whispered. The baby stared back at him, blinking slowly. Then it smiled, an innocent, small smile that didn't belong in such a strange place. Before Eli could move, the ship came to life. Lights flickered, alarms began to hum, and strange symbols appeared on the walls, burning brighter and brighter. Something inside the metal started to move, like gears waking from sleep. Eli stumbled back, holding the baby close. A beam of light scanned him from head to toe, and for a second he felt something burn into his skin. He looked down and saw symbols glowing faintly on his arm, the same ones from the ship's walls. He screamed, shaking his arm, but the marks wouldn't fade. The baby reached up, touching his face. The moment it did, the ship went silent again. The lights faded. Everything stopped. Eli stood there, breathing hard, sweat running down his face. The night was silent again, but something had changed. He could feel it, like the air around him was alive. He looked down at the baby, who was now sleeping peacefully in his arms. He should have left it there. He should have run and never looked back. But something deep inside him, something he couldn't explain, told him he couldn't leave it to die. As he climbed out of the wreckage, the desert wind blew cold against his face. The stars above were silent, watching. He walked back toward his truck, holding the strange baby close. Every few minutes the child's skin glowed softly, and Eli could feel warmth spreading through his hands. When he finally reached the truck, he wrapped the baby in his jacket and placed it on the seat. He sat there for a long time, staring at it. "Guess you're coming with me," he muttered. Then, just as he turned the key to start the engine, he heard that tiny voice again, clear and soft, right beside him. "Daddy." Eli froze. His heart stopped for a moment. Slowly he turned his head toward the baby. Its eyes were open again, glowing brighter this time like tiny blue suns. And then, before he could say a word, the radio in his truck flickered on by itself. A static voice whispered through it in a language he didn't know. The baby looked up, staring at the radio. Eli didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear now. This wasn't just a baby, and whoever had left it behind, they might be coming back. The sun rose over the desert, painting the sand gold. Eli Ward's truck rolled slowly across the empty highway. Inside, the strange baby slept wrapped in his old jacket. Her faint blue glow lit the inside of the truck like a soft lantern. Eli's hands gripped the steering wheel tight. His mind was full of questions. He kept looking at her through the mirror. Every time he looked, the same thought returned. What is she? He had seen many things in his life, war, storms, wrecks, but never something like this. The symbols still burned faintly on his arm like scars made of light. They didn't hurt, but they pulsed in rhythm with the baby's breathing. When he reached his small cabin near the edge of town, he parked the truck and sat still for a moment. Everything felt wrong. The world was quiet, but too quiet. Like the calm before a storm. He took the baby inside. The cabin was old. Wooden floors, a dusty lamp, and tools scattered across the table. He laid her gently on a blanket. She looked peaceful. Almost normal now, except for her glowing veins. Eli made some coffee and sat beside her thinking. He should have called someone, the police, the army, anyone. But he couldn't. Something deep inside told him they would take her away and she'd never come back. He stared at her again. "What am I supposed to do with you?" he whispered. To his shock, the baby's eyes fluttered open. Bright blue, shining softly. She blinked at him and said in a small, broken voice, "Daddy." Eli dropped his cup. No, don't talk. You can't even—" But she smiled. A soft light flickered around her and his radio turned on by itself. Static filled the air, then a strange melody played. A song Eli remembered from his childhood. He froze. How do you know that?" he asked quietly. The baby didn't answer. Instead, her voice came inside his head, soft like a whisper through water. "I don't know, I just feel you." Eli stood, his heart pounding. "You're reading my mind?" The baby blinked. "I'm sorry," he didn't know what to say. None of it made sense. She wasn't human, but she wasn't evil either. She looked scared, confused, almost innocent. Hours passed. Eli tried to feed her some milk, and to his surprise, she drank it. Her skin's glow dimmed slightly, and she laughed for the first time. A small, bright sound that made the whole cabin feel warmer. He decided to call her Lyra. "Lyra," he said softly, testing the name. The baby looked up, eyes shining brighter, and smiled again. That night, as the wind howled outside, Eli sat beside the fire. Lyra was asleep on the couch, the light from her skin reflecting off the walls. He rubbed his arm where the glowing symbols were. Every time she breathed, the marks shimmered faintly. He turned on the TV to distract himself. Static filled the screen for a moment, then suddenly, the picture changed. The channel switched by itself. The image that appeared made his blood turn cold. It wasn't a show. It was a dark figure, tall and shadowy, standing in front of a black background. The figure had no face, only glowing red eyes. When it spoke, the voice sounded metallic, deep and broken. "Return the child," Eli's breath caught. "What the hell?" "Return the child," the voice repeated. "She belongs to us." He stood, heart racing. "Who are you?" he shouted. The screen flickered violently. The figure tilted its head slowly. "The human has taken what must not live." Eli ran to the TV and unplugged it. But even without power, the screen still glowed faintly red. Then one by one, the lights in the cabin began to dim. The air grew colder. Lyra woke up crying. The symbols on Eli's arm started to burn. He grabbed her and ran outside into the desert night. The stars above looked strange, too many of them, like they were moving. He felt the ground hum beneath his feet like something enormous was listening. He ran to his truck and drove fast, the headlights cutting through the dark. Lyra clung to his shirt, whispering softly, "They left me, because I'm not pure." Eli looked at her, trying to understand. "What do you mean?" "They made me to test. But I'm wrong. I have too much of you. Too much of me," Eli repeated, confused. Too much human. A chill ran through him. Her words felt like something from a nightmare. He glanced at the sky. For a second, he saw lights moving high above, 3 red dots in perfect formation. They weren't stars. They were watching him. He pressed harder on the gas, heart pounding. Don't worry, he said, voice shaking. I'll keep you safe, Lyra, I promise. Lyra looked at him with her glowing eyes and whispered, They will come for me, Daddy. And they will never stop. Eli didn't answer. He just kept driving into the endless desert night, unaware that far above him something massive was already moving through the clouds. Something not from Earth. The night sky over the desert was no longer calm. Strange red lights moved silently above the clouds, blinking like eyes in the dark. Eli Ward drove fast, his truck bouncing over the rough road. Beside him, the glowing child, Lyra, sat wrapped in his jacket, holding his arm tightly. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he had to get far, far away. Every few minutes he looked at the sky, afraid those lights were following him. The radio, even though turned off, whispered faintly. Static filled the air like distant voices trying to speak. Eli could feel it in his chest, the feeling of being hunted. When morning came, he stopped near an old gas station that had been closed for years. The sign was broken and the windows were covered in dust. He parked behind it and stepped out carefully. The desert was quiet again, but not peaceful. Something unseen was moving far beyond the hills. He could feel it like vibrations under his feet. Lyra opened her eyes. They're closer, she whispered. Eli knelt beside her. Who's closer, Lyra? Who's after you? Her glowing eyes filled with fear. The Kareth, she said softly. My creators, Eli frowned. You mean aliens? The ones who left you to die? She nodded. They don't love. They only make and destroy. They test life. If it fails, they erase it. Eli swallowed hard. And you failed? I was born with emotion, she said. They call it a defect. They said feelings make me weak. He looked at her small, trembling hands. No, he said firmly. Feelings make you alive. Lyra smiled faintly, but the smile didn't last long. The air suddenly filled with a low hum, a strange, deep sound like thunder underwater. Eli turned toward the horizon and saw dark shapes moving through the heat waves. They looked like machines walking on 4 legs, their bodies sleek and black, with red lights for eyes. They weren't cars. They weren't drones. They were hunters. Eli grabbed Lyra and ran into the gas station. The windows shook as one of the machines landed nearby, crushing the ground beneath its metal legs. Its head turned, scanning the area with a red beam. Lyra clung to him. They can smell human DNA, she said. They will find you too. Eli's mind raced. He looked around the station and found old gas cans, rusted metal rods, and broken glass. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but he still remembered how to fight. He began setting traps, pouring gasoline across the floor, tying old wires to bottles, creating a web of noise and fire. Lyra watched quietly, her eyes glowing brighter. When the first hunter entered, Eli lit a match. Come get us, he whispered. He dropped the match. Flames exploded across the floor. The creature screeched, its metal body catching fire. It swung its claws wildly, smashing walls and throwing sparks. Eli pulled Lyra behind a counter. The creature broke through the fire, charging toward them. He raised his old shotgun and fired. The blast hit its chest, but the creature didn't stop. Its wound healed instantly, metal reforming like liquid. Eli cursed under his breath. You've got to be kidding me. The creature leapt forward, then suddenly froze. Lyra had stood up, her small hands glowing bright blue. She screamed, not in fear but in power. The sound wasn't human. It was energy. A wave of light burst from her body, throwing the hunter backward through the wall. The explosion shook the entire building. Sand and fire filled the air. When the smoke cleared, Eli looked at her in shock. Her veins were glowing brighter than ever, pulsing like circuits. She looked weak, her face pale, but she was alive. He ran to her, picking her up. You did that? Lyra nodded slowly, her voice barely a whisper. It hurts when I use it, but it keeps you safe. Eli felt his throat tighten. You shouldn't have to protect me. You're just a child, Lyra touched his face. No, Daddy, I'm not just a child. Before Eli could respond, a high-pitched sound filled the air. The hunter wasn't dead. Its broken body crawled back toward the desert, glowing red. It lifted one arm and pointed toward the sky. A beam of red light shot upward. Lyra gasped. It called them. It told them I'm alive. Eli looked up. Through the smoke and fire, he saw the clouds parting. The morning sun disappeared behind something enormous, something metallic. A ship, black and smooth, hung above the desert, miles wide. Its shadow stretched across the land like night itself. Lyra grabbed his arm, trembling. "They found us, Daddy. The Kareth are coming." Eli stared at the sky, jaw tight. He didn't know how to fight aliens, but he knew one thing. He wasn't giving her up. He lifted her into the truck again and started the engine. "Then let them come," he said. "They'll learn what humans do when someone threatens their family." As he sped off into the blazing desert, the giant ship above began to hum. The hunt had only just begun. The desert was burning under the sun. Eli Ward's truck raced across the empty road, kicking up clouds of dust. Behind him, the red glow from the alien ship still flickered in the sky. The sound of engines, mechanical and inhuman, echoed from above. They were hunting again. Inside the truck, Lyra sat quietly, her silver blue eyes glowing faintly. She looked pale and weak after the blast that destroyed the hunter. Eli kept glancing at her. He could see how much it had cost her to use that power. "You hang in there, kid," he said softly. "We're almost safe." But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. The Kareth would never stop. He drove for hours until the highway ended at a stretch of rocky hills. Ahead, the remains of an old abandoned mine stood, a forgotten hole in the desert where men once dug for silver. The perfect place to hide. Eli parked the truck behind the rocks. He carried Lyra inside the dark tunnel. The air was cool, heavy with dust and silence. His flashlight flickered weakly on the rough stone walls. "We'll stay here," he said, setting her down on a pile of blankets from the truck. "No one will find us." Lyra's small hand reached for his arm. The marks, the glowing alien symbols, were still there, brighter now. "They know you're marked," she whispered. "They can follow the code inside you." Eli frowned. "Then how do I stop it?" She closed her eyes. "I can try to hide it. But it will hurt." He nodded without hesitation. "Do it." She placed her glowing fingers on his arm. Light poured from her hands, and Eli gasped in pain as the symbols burned, changing shape, dimming until they vanished completely. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. When she was done, she looked exhausted. "They can't find you for a while," she said weakly. Eli smiled through the pain. "Good girl." For a few quiet minutes, there was peace. The sound of wind through the mine, the slow rhythm of their breathing. Eli finally let his guard down. He leaned against the wall, eyes half closed. Then he heard it. A faint clicking sound from deeper in the mine. Click, click, click. He turned his flashlight toward the darkness. The sound stopped. "Probably a rock," he muttered, but Lyra's eyes snapped open. "No," she whispered. "It's one of them." Before Eli could react, something moved in the dark, fast. A shadow crawled along the ceiling like a spider made of steel. Its body was thin and long, its eyes glowing red. Eli raised his gun and fired. The shot echoed through the mine, but the creature dodged, crawling behind a pillar. Sparks flew where bullets hit metal. Then the thing screamed, a sound that didn't belong in this world. "Get down!" Eli shouted. The creature lunged at him. Its claws tore through the air, slicing deep marks into the rock. Eli swung his shotgun like a club, smashing it against the creature's head. The blow barely slowed it. Lyra cried out, holding her hands to her chest. Her veins began to glow again, but Eli yelled, "No! Don't use your power, you'll die!" The creature grabbed him, throwing him across the tunnel. His back hit the wall hard, knocking the air from his lungs. The alien hunter crawled closer, its mechanical limbs twitching, its mouth splitting open like blades. And then, it stopped. A low hum filled the mine. The walls themselves seemed to vibrate. Lyra was standing now, her small body glowing brighter and brighter. The air bent around her, her hair lifting like it was in water. The creature screeched and rushed toward her, but it was too late. Light exploded from her body, filling the mine like a sun. The force threw Eli backward. He shielded his eyes, but through the blinding glow he saw the creature disintegrate, its metal melting, its red eyes fading to dust. Then everything went quiet. When the light faded, Lyra collapsed. Eli crawled to her side, pulling her into his arms. Hey, stay with me," he shouted. Her skin was cold, her glow dim. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You didn't," Eli said. "You saved us again." She opened her eyes a little. "I can feel them," she said softly. "More are coming. But not just hunters this time." Eli looked toward the mine's entrance. Outside, thunder rolled, though the sky was clear. "What's coming?" he asked. Lyra's voice trembled. "Their ship. The Kareth Queen. She wants me back." Eli's jaw tightened. He stood loading his shotgun. The light from the mine entrance flickered red, shadows moving against the rocks. He turned back to Lyra. Then she'll have to come through me first. Lyra smiled faintly, her small hand gripping his. You're not afraid? Eli looked toward the sky outside where the faint hum of engines grew louder. I'm terrified, he said, but fear doesn't mean I'll run. Outside, a beam of red light cut across the desert, shining down on the mine. The ground shook as the ship's shadow grew larger. Deep beneath the earth, holding the alien child close, Eli whispered, "Let them come." And above the desert, the hunt had turned into a war. The next morning, the desert was covered in a strange red haze. The air was heavy, filled with a deep humming sound that seemed to come from the sky itself. Birds were gone. Even the wind had stopped. From the mouth of the old mine, Eli Ward watched the horizon. The rising sun was hidden behind something massive, something that shouldn't exist above Earth. A Kareth warship hung in the clouds. Its black metal shimmered like oil, stretching miles wide. Strange glowing veins pulsed across its surface, and every few seconds, red light flickered from its underbelly, scanning the ground below. Eli had seen warships in his time as a soldier, but this wasn't a human ship. This thing looked alive, like a creature pretending to be metal. Behind him, Lyra sat on a blanket near the tunnel wall, her small body weak but still glowing faintly. She was drawing shapes in the dust with her finger, patterns that looked like stars and circuits mixed together. Eli turned toward her. They found us, didn't they? Lyra nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. They've come for me. For the code inside me. Eli frowned. Code? She looked up at him with her glowing eyes. I am made of two kinds of life, human and Kareth. My body carries something they fear, and something they want. Eli crouched down beside her. What do they want with it? They made me to be a weapon, she said quietly. A bridge between species. But I felt things I wasn't supposed to feel. Love, sadness, compassion. They said that made me dangerous. Eli stared at her, struggling to understand. So they're here to destroy you because you care? Lyra nodded. And because they think you've changed me. Eli looked toward the sky again. Then they're right, he said. I have. Suddenly the ground shook. A deep sound rolled across the desert. The warship opened from its center like a blooming flower. Inside, glowing red lights began to spin. Lyra stood, clutching his hand. They're sending their soldiers, she said. Biomechanical drones. They can copy shapes, even voices. Eli pulled her closer. We can't stay here. He grabbed his gear, his old rifle, a backpack full of supplies, and a rusty communication device he'd kept from his army days. He didn't know if it still worked, but it was better than nothing. They climbed out of the mine and ran across the sand toward an abandoned military base a few miles away. The place had been dead for years, a graveyard of old machines. Inside, broken tanks and computers lay scattered across the floor. Eli started working fast, using what little power remained. He tore wires, fixed circuits, and set up barriers. Lyra watched him with wide eyes. What are you doing? Building something that can fight back, he said. You're not the only one who knows how to improvise. Lyra smiled weakly. You're brave, Daddy. He paused for a second, that word hitting him harder than any bullet. Then he nodded and got back to work. Hours passed. The warship grew closer, its shadow stretching across the desert like nightfall. Drones descended from the sky, hundreds of them moving like dark birds. Lyra's glow brightened. I can feel their thoughts, she whispered. They don't hate you. They don't even understand hate. They only follow the signal. Eli looked at her. Can you block it? Maybe, she said, but I'll need to connect to their network. Eli frowned. Won't that lead them straight to you? Yes, she said softly. But if I can change the signal, they'll stop seeing us as enemies. Eli hesitated. And if it doesn't work? Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of strange calm. Then at least we tried. He wanted to argue, but he saw something in her face. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had already made her choice. As the sky darkened, Eli stood beside her. Together, they watched the first line of drones descend over the base, red eyes glowing like fireflies of death. Lyra stepped forward. Blue light swirled around her, rising like wind. Her voice was small, but it echoed across the air. Leave my world alone. The drones froze mid-air. For a moment, everything stopped. Eli's ears rang with silence. Then, her body burst with light. Waves of blue energy shot upward, forming circles that reached the clouds. The warship shuddered as its lights flickered. The hum in the air turned into a roar. Inside the base, computers came alive on their own. Old screens lit up with alien text. Eli watched in awe as the machines followed her command. But Lyra screamed, clutching her chest. Sparks of light spilled from her skin like stars. Eli ran to her. "Stop, you're overloading." She shook her head. "I can't stop now. If I do, they'll destroy everything." He grabbed her shoulders. "Lyra, please." The ground shook again and a beam of red light burst down from the warship, cutting straight into the sand. Lyra looked up. "She's here," she whispered. "The Kareth Queen." Eli turned toward the sky. The massive ship's center glowed brighter, forming a shape, a face made of light and metal. "Return the creation," the Queen's voice thundered. "The experiment must end." Eli stepped in front of Lyra, raising his weapon even though he knew it was useless. "You'll have to come and take her yourself." The Queen's voice echoed like thunder. "So be it, human." The warship's engines roared. The desert began to tremble. Eli looked at Lyra. "No matter what happens," he said, "we finish this together." Lyra nodded, tears glowing on her silver cheeks. Together. And as the sky turned red and the ship descended toward Earth, the real battle began. The desert night had turned red. Lightning without thunder flashed across the clouds as the Kareth warship descended like a living storm. The air burned with heat and static. Machines on the ground twisted and screamed as alien energy warped their metal. Eli Ward stood on top of the old military base, rifle in hand, staring up at the monstrous ship that hovered above them. His heart pounded, but his mind was steady. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but tonight he would fight like one. Beside him, Lyra stood barefoot in the sand, glowing brighter than ever. Her small frame shook, but her eyes were filled with fierce light. "She's here," she whispered. "The Queen," the air shimmered. Then out of the beam of red light, a Kareth hologram appeared. A tall silver being with no mouth, only eyes that burned with cold fire. The Kareth Queen's voice was everywhere at once, deep and sharp, vibrating inside Eli's skull. "Human, step aside. The creation is unstable. It must be erased." Eli aimed his rifle straight at the image. "You're not taking her." The Queen tilted her head slightly. "You cannot stop evolution." Then the ground opened. From the sand, dark metal shapes began to rise. Kareth soldiers, tall and thin, their bodies made of blades and wires. They moved without sound, their glowing eyes fixed on Lyra. Eli fired first. The shot hit one square in the chest, but the bullet melted against its armor. He cursed and reloaded. The air filled with a high-pitched hum as the soldiers charged. "Lyra, run!" he shouted, but she didn't move. She stepped forward, raising her hands. A wave of blue energy burst from her, hitting the first line of Kareth soldiers and sending them flying backward like leaves in a storm. Eli ducked behind a broken wall, watching her in awe. The light coming from her wasn't just energy. It was alive, pulsing with rhythm like a heartbeat. Lyra's voice echoed through the air. "Leave him alone." Her words weren't just sound, they were command. The nearest soldier froze mid-motion, its metal twitching as if fighting something inside. Then it turned its weapon on its own kind. Eli stared. "She's controlling them." The Queen's voice thundered again, colder now. "Stop this, Lyra, you are not one of them." "You are Kareth." Lyra shook her head, her small fist glowing. "No, I'm both. And that makes me more than you." The warship fired a beam toward her. Eli ran forward, pushing her out of the way as the beam scorched the ground where she stood. The explosion threw them both to the dirt. He groaned, trying to move. His arm burned from the blast, but he didn't care. He looked at Lyra. She was crying, her light flickering like a dying flame. "Stay down," he said weakly. "Save your strength." Lyra looked at him, tears glowing blue. "You'll die if I don't help." "Better me than you," he said with a small broken smile. Her expression hardened. "No." She stood, trembling, and looked up at the ship. The Queen's image loomed above them. "You cannot win, child," the Queen hissed. "Your human heart makes you weak." Lyra raised her arms, her voice echoing through the wind. "Then you don't understand humanity at all." The ground began to glow with her light. The sand turned to glass beneath her feet. All around them, human machines, broken tanks, radios, generators came alive. rising in a storm of sparks. She wasn't fighting alone anymore. Every machine within miles responded to her call, forming a barrier of fire and metal. The Kareth soldiers hesitated, their network failing under her power. Eli could barely see her now. She looked like a figure made of pure light. The sky above changed color, blue and red twisting together like a storm made of stars. But then the Queen struck back. From the warship's center, a beam of white light shot down, piercing Lyra's chest. She screamed, falling to her knees. The light around her began to flicker wildly. Eli crawled toward her, shouting her name. "Lyra!" She looked at him through tears. "She's inside my mind." The Queen's voice grew louder, echoing in both their heads. "Your human memories are illusions. Let them go, and I will end your pain." Eli grabbed her hands. "Don't listen to her. You're stronger than she'll ever be." Lyra looked into his eyes, trembling. "If I fight her, I might not come back." Eli squeezed her hand. "Then I'll wait for you. However long it takes." She closed her eyes. The light from her body became blinding. Eli felt the ground shake, the air burn, and the sound of metal screaming filled his ears. The Queen's hologram flickered, distorted, then shattered into fragments of red light. Lyra's voice echoed one last time, soft and calm. "Goodbye, Daddy." And then, silence. The red glow from the warship faded. The machines stopped moving. The Kareth soldiers turned to dust. Eli knelt in the sand, holding her small, cold hand. Her glow was gone. The sky was clear again. He whispered, his voice breaking. "You did it, Lyra. You saved us." But deep above, the warship drifted silently, one final pulse of light flashing across its surface, like a heartbeat. The battle was over. But something had awakened. The desert was quiet again. No thunder, no engines, no red light in the sky, only wind and silence. Eli Ward sat alone beside a pile of glowing dust, the last remains of the Kareth soldiers. His clothes were torn, his skin burned, but he didn't care. His eyes stayed fixed on the small, still body in his arms. Lyra lay there, peaceful and pale. Her silver glow was gone. The strange marks that once shimmered on her skin had faded into nothing. She looked like an ordinary child now. Too ordinary, too still. Eli brushed a strand of her hair from her face. His hands trembled. "Come on, kid," he whispered. "You can wake up now," the wind answered for her. It blew softly across the sand, carrying faint echoes of the battle that had ended only hours ago. The massive Kareth warship that once filled the sky was gone, vanished as if it had never existed. But the ground around them was scarred. The sand was fused into glass. The air smelled of lightning and dust. Eli's eyes burned with tears. "You said we'd finish this together," he said quietly. "You didn't say you'd leave me alone." He stayed like that for a long time, the sun slowly climbing over the horizon. The desert began to warm again, golden light spilling over the endless dunes. The world looked calm, like it had been cleansed. Eli laid Lyra gently on the ground and stood. His legs felt heavy, but something inside told him not to leave. Not yet. As he looked at the rising sun, a strange shimmer rippled across the glassy sand. A low hum rolled through the air, faint but familiar. It was the same sound he heard the night he found her in that alien sack. He turned sharply. "Lyra?" No answer. Then the light began to spread, from the ground, from the air, from her. Her body glowed faintly again, veins of blue light pulsing under her skin. The sound grew louder, turning into a soft hum like a heartbeat returning. Eli fell to his knees beside her. "Lyra, I'm here." Her small hand twitched. A beam of gentle blue light lifted from her chest, rising into the air like smoke. The light gathered into a shape, tall, bright, almost angelic. For a second, Eli couldn't breathe. It was her, but not her body. Something higher, lighter, glowing like a star. Lyra looked down at him, her eyes full of warmth. "Daddy," she said softly, her voice echoing through the air. "I thought I lost you." Eli's heart stopped. He reached out, but his hand passed through her glowing form. "You're alive." "But how?" She smiled. The same small smile he'd seen that first night in the desert. "The Queen tried to erase me, but she forgot one thing. Humans don't disappear. They endure." Her voice was calm, but there was power in it. Ancient, endless power. "I'm not Kareth anymore," she said. "I'm something new. Something born from both worlds. Eli stood slowly. Then stay. We can— She shook her head. I can't. My place isn't here anymore. The warship didn't die. It just changed form. There are still others out there, more Kareth, more like me. They'll come again. Someone has to stop them before they find Earth. Eli took a step forward. Then I'll go with you. Lyra smiled sadly. You can't. You belong here, with your people. His throat tightened. You're my people, Lyra. She looked down, light rippling around her face like a halo. You made me human, Daddy. You showed me love. That's why I can fight them now. The wind blew harder and her form began to rise, her glow brightening. Don't go, he said, his voice breaking. Lyra reached out, her light wrapping around his hand. Though he couldn't feel her, he could sense her warmth. The same warmth she carried when she first whispered his name. I'll always be here, she said softly. In every light that shines, in every code that speaks, the Kareth tried to make a weapon, but you gave them something they never understood, a soul. Tears ran down Eli's face. He tried to speak, but no words came. The light lifted higher, spreading across the desert like dawn. The glassy sand reflected her glow, turning the ground into a mirror of stars. Lyra's last words floated through the air as her form vanished into the sky. You were the first to call me daughter. Then she was gone. Eli stood alone, staring at the brightening horizon. The world was quiet again, but it wasn't the same. The air felt alive, humming faintly like her heartbeat still echoed beneath the earth. He looked at the sun and smiled through his tears. Goodbye, Lyra. A soft breeze passed over him, warm and gentle. For just a moment he thought he heard her voice again, faint but full of joy. Goodbye, Daddy. He turned and began to walk toward the horizon, the desert shining behind him like glass. Above, a single streak of blue light shot across the sky, too straight to be a star, too alive to be a plane. Somewhere far beyond the clouds, Lyra's light traveled through the void, reaching the cold stars where the Kareth still waited. But this time, humanity had something watching the stars back. A new dawn had begun,